Hello, and welcome to Realizing Active Buyer Engagement Through Experience-Driven Commerce. So I'm going to start with a recap of the last session. As you know, that this is a series of sessions, and this will be our third one. And the last session, we really talked about B2B experience-driven commerce. And let's talk about the definition again, because we're going to hear that over and over, and it's really important because you're going to hear a lot of different things. But the reality is that experience-driven commerce is enabled when an organization adopts a customer-centric, data insights-informed culture that's really focused on meaningful customer relationships. And the last session, we talked about awareness, right? So B2B experience-driven awareness is really about the experience and relevancy of the information that you're sharing, discovery, and driving the right traffic to your site, and being consistent in your omni-channel experiences. And we know those are words you hear a lot, but we just want to reiterate that those are really important, and they're going to carry into as we move through the next cycle in the buying journey. So let me start by introducing today's experts. My name is Karie Daudt, and I'm a Director of Commerce Strategy, and I will be operating as the moderator today. Next, I'd like to introduce you to our subject matter expert, Ritesh. Ritesh is an e-commerce practice director and PIM consultant here at Proficient. His role is to provide consultation to clients for their product information management strategy alongside their commerce solutions roadmap, as well as to assist with platform selection and implementation. Along with Ritesh is Mike. Mike Rabior is Proficient's principal and chief strategist for commerce and has experience in nearly every business, vertical, and technical domain. Mike started the first decade of his career designing and building IBM's commerce platform, WebSphere Commerce, before spending the last 15 years as a trusted advisor, leading clients to profitable outcomes through digital transformation and strategy. He is a frequent author and sought-after keynote event and industry speaker. So the agenda for today is really focusing on the what, the why, and the how. What is experience-driven commerce at the consideration stage? The definition synopsis. What does a modern B2B consideration experience look like? The art of the possible. Why? Why invest in experience-driven commerce for consideration, customer benefits, and the business benefits? And how do you do it? How do you approach experience-driven consideration? We're going to talk about key capabilities and key considerations. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mike to take us on the journey.
Thanks very much, Karie. Welcome, everyone. Glad to be talking to you today about this. When we talk about what experience-driven commerce is at the consideration stage, I often explain to people it's kind of like you've got someone who's finally come through your door and is willing to engage with you. And it's at that moment where, in a retail setting, they walk into your store and they look around, and at that point, they're trying to get a sense of, what products you offer. Are you relevant to what I'm looking for? Do I believe in you as a business? Do I want to buy from you? And that carries forward to the digital space as well. But really, it comes down to demonstrating a certain amount of empathy to that customer, understanding their needs, being transparent with your ability to fulfill those needs, and demonstrating and establishing trust through all of the ways you can, fulfill that need. So it may not actually result in immediate purchase, but it's at least engagement to the point where beyond just a simple consideration, you're trying to get a person to think about you further as someone who can actually solve the particular problem at hand or provide the product or service that they seek. So really the question you have to ask yourself is, are you successful if your customer is not, fully empowered to make decisions during their consideration of your product or service, or how you may actually be able to address the challenge they have? And that comes down to verifying that the problem, showing that you've solved that problem before, providing them the insight that they're looking for. Like, do I need this critically today? Can I wait a week? When can you deliver it to me? When can you provide that solution that I seek? So that they're not surprised that I placed an order and it never shows up, or I don't know exactly when I'm going to receive it, so I can't make plans. Especially in a B2B context, that's often critical because it's part of a greater program or project that has dependencies for that particular solution or that particular product, and other things will depend upon it as well. So when you take that kind of transparency and show how you can solve the problem, show that you know the problem, and show that you've solved that problem in other ways for other individuals, you establish a deeper trust with that individual by showing them that you can in fact solve that problem, and you build that level of confidence that takes someone in the consideration phase and makes them think about you in as a person who can really, or as a product or a company who can really help them, ultimately address what they're considering. And that's pivotal, because that is the point where you've got sort of a captive focus. It's often the point in time where people are most critical and analytical. So if you provide them the right information, you win sort of the hearts and minds of those people over those who leave that person to sort of fend for themselves and best guess a solution or how trustworthy you may actually be as a business. So looking at that, if we look at the market today and you kind of understand that definition, you can look around the industry and see what sort of table stakes are out there today, across empathy, transparency, and trust. And you don't have to look very far to actually see authenticated users. Everyone knows there's a sign-in wall on a lot of B2B sites before you get to see your particular version of an assortment that's offered, or pricing, or availability, or shipping terms, and application stories that are somewhat primitive, but they're sort of big bucket how this particular product or service has addressed the needs of people in different areas. But it really doesn't go very far beyond that. It's very sort of marketing focused. It's not really solution focused as deeply as some of those who are disrupting. Transparency really focuses around the specifications, being honest about the weight of the product, its application, its warranty, being able to look at the differences between variants, especially in those particular industries and markets that you serve, where variants are very small but details matter. Is a square edge, is a round edge, what kind of thread is on a bolt. Very detailed, specific information is often key to give people the confidence that that is actually the right product they're searching for. And then the images. Usually it's the stock image that's out there for the product from either the manufacturer or the single image that's used across all aspects of the value chain that supplies that product. But it doesn't go very far beyond, can I rotate it? Can I see the back of it? Can I see the side of it? Can I see the thread itself so I know it's the right thread for me? And then trust, really this is sort of a static, just who am I as a business, the FAQ, about us kind of pages that try and sell the business in a pretty generic way, but they don't really go very far beyond, we've been established since a certain time and served the industry for X number of years, but they don't talk a lot about much beyond the products or services they sell, and really just identify themselves as a business trying to win trust simply on how long they've been around. If you go to the emerging sort of focus, the empathy aspect of this is really gaining some knowledge of who they are and the problems or solutions they're looking for, or the problems they have, and understanding how you can be relevant to them in that context. And that's may seem like a small step, but it's actually very significant when people feel like you're more relevant to them because you understand them more than what the marketing material might suggest, but you're actually helping them solve their problem and guiding them to a solution, or guiding them to the right product that they may not themselves find successfully on their own. Transparency, really, it's that deeper, the richer content. It's not just the short and long description of a product display page that's 2 sentences long. It gives a lot of more detail, and it shows the product in a lot more significance. So you can put 360-degree rotation on a product. You can show different side angles, and provide a richer perspective or actually display of the product so that people can be sure that it's relevant and the right product or service for them, them and their particular needs. And establishing trust is really about not necessarily trying to drive them to the sale immediately, but providing them more information if they need it. Let me help you is kind of the message. It's not just putting the largest font possible on the add to cart button, but it's providing them information and insight. If they're not willing to commit to a purchase, you're willing to support them to establish that further level of trust so that they do ultimately convert to a purchase. And if you look on the innovating side, the disruptors out there are really taking the next step beyond and going into a more data-driven, analytic-driven empathy. They're using that level of precision to go beyond just simply, there's 4 or 5 demographics or personas that I can help, to letting the data tell me, what I've been successful at helping, and how do I help that person understand how my business can help them in more in a deeper, meaningful way than what simple static content or macro level personas can achieve. And the customer success stories come out in that as a sort of 360-degree analytics kind of capability, where they look at the customers they served before and build those case studies and promote them. So they're not just saying these are our target markets we serve, but these are the actual successes others have had with us. It's kind of a natural extension of the ratings and reviews of a particular product into something much, much bigger, because be honest, your business is standing on its the accolades of its consumers, like those that are shopping on the site. No better testimonies out there than that of your customer. Transparency for the innovator is really talking about sort of opening up all aspects of the fulfillment of this product or service, letting people know that you're there to support throughout the purchase, not just taking the order, but fulfilling the order, making sure the order is right, making sure it's timely, making sure that they have a level of insight and understanding of what cost will be before they make the purchase. These are all incredibly transparent ways to do business with people, and ultimately feeds into the trust factor, where people are more likely to do business with you, because when you provide them that and you interact with them, you implicitly become more trustworthy, because you demonstrate that you're not just there to make a quick buck in a marketplace. You're actually there to help fulfill a need and make sure they're successful when they do business with you. So let's talk about an example of how some of this is achieved. If you look at Honeywell's website, one of the first things that comes to mind is the ability to navigate based on a different cross-section of the business, based on who you are and what you think your need is or what problem you're trying to solve. So you can see that you can navigate a traditional catalog, or you can actually go and say, I have an application, and let that application cross-section as a solution-focused cross-section of your catalog, as opposed to just letting them navigate some topology or hierarchy through it. Basically, what can be a very complex taxonomy and very broad. So when you think of tactically helping someone as a solution or an application focus, it slices and cross sections that very robust catalog, very broad catalog that would be very complicated to navigate on your own, but allows you to filter that to all aspects of all categories of that catalog and provide meaningful and relatable product to that particular application. So it's a huge advantage for many, because let's face it, people aren't interested in the entire catalog when they come to a site. They are looking for a particular solution or set of products for a particular reason. So just letting them come with that reason in mind takes a great step towards being that kind of innovator and taking the next step towards being relevant to people who are considering doing business with you. Another aspect of this is when people are actually engaged with the catalog, you can see all the different callouts on the page here that really identify how much assistance Honeywell is trying to provide people in the consideration phase. Sign in to get your pricing, see what your availability be like, allowing people to cross-section and filter the catalog to what matters to them most. And it's not just about necessarily the attributes of the product, but often it is whether or not it's in stock or Can it be shipped in a reasonable amount of time, or some of the questions that people want to ask. Only show me that the things that I know I can get within the time window I need them in, as well as figuring out what brand. Are you loyal to a particular brand, or do you know you're looking for a particular brand because that part or that product is part of a greater solution or product set that has been fulfilled by that brand. So drilling down the catalog in a way that's relevant to you is an incredible way to support them in that consideration phase, to give them the confidence that they're actually navigating the right thing. And then product comparisons and checking the availability in line on a per item basis is a great way, especially in the variant space, again, like I mentioned, to actually ensure people that they are finding the right product and it's not leading them down a path where it's just going to result in an RMA and lost time, effort, and money because they purchased the wrong thing. And that confidence is huge in this level of the consideration phase, because it gives them that level of confidence to actually make a purchase. If you look on the product display page itself, you can see it's not just the largest font add to cart button you can make as a call to action. It draws attention to the fact that you can request more information. You can look at the product across and compare it against others. You can start conversations and dialogue with individuals about this particular product. And that's key, because it's not just driving again to a sale of the wrong product. It's calling out that you're willing to support and invest in them to make sure that they make the right choice and they are successful when they do business with me. So that I'll hand over to Ritesh to talk about a little bit of the benefits and the why you consider this beyond what I've already mentioned.
Thank you, Mike. Hello, everyone. Welcome. So I'll extend how Mike set the stage about what the consideration stage is as part of the experience-driven commerce. Now, in this section, we touch quite a bit on why it is important and for the business, and even further, meaning for building long-lasting relationships with potential buyers and build partners, essentially. So ultimately, from the initial stages of the buyer engagement to then getting their information, understanding them, and guiding them through the website, through the e-commerce site. As Mike talked about, there are stages on the site that can be enabled to guide the buyer through. And what it helps get to is it helps them make a decision in their buying process for what they are looking for, and gets them there faster, meaning the more relevant and accurate that product information happens to be, the more engaging the whole journey is. So it's definitely beneficial to understand the buyer and the buying process and guide them through it. Now, with that said, I'll expand a little bit on the details about the benefits. So if you look on the left-hand side of this, there are three key aspects how it's broken out: revenue acceleration, cost reduction, and customer satisfaction. Now, of course, if from an e-commerce website's perspective, ultimate goal it always comes to mind is for a company to increase revenue. But that cannot happen if the buyer is visiting the website or visiting the e-commerce store for the first time and trying to figure out where the information is and working their way through the buying and browsing experience to the checkout. They may not fully get the sense of am I getting the relevant information that I'm looking for at my fingertips. It helps increase conversions for samples or demo requests. It leverages features like product compare to help them make decisions. These are a couple of these as starters mentioned here, which just engages the buyer, and they don't have to browse multiple different sites. We don't lose their interest, and they continue to get all their questions answered while they are browsing through the e-commerce store. Another aspect of it, investing in content that supports decision-making process. This is also in itself quite a bit of valuable and requires some research to this topic, meaning what gets displayed on the site, as you saw on that previous couple screenshots on the a couple slides, is uh, on application view versus a product view, what type of information should to show, and depending on where the customer lands or the potential buyer is, if the content is more tailored towards that experience, and talking about it is the usage of a product versus the product description itself. So as the distinction is made, it certainly helps them make that decision on saying, um, here's the relevant information that I've been looking for, and get more details into even comparing them to other products. Even supporting the researcher in making decisions is ultimately the goal based on all these points, so that they're not switching between sites, switching between tabs, researching for information, because they have all the information available on the same screen or a series of sequential screens. Another aspect, cost reduction. So this basically is talking about how the experience-driven commerce aspect of the buying journey drives and supports self-service. What this is essentially is talking about is it reduces the need for people to pick up the phone, make a call, ask questions, and wait in line to get their questions answered. Any of those experiences where you might expect or you might run into some sort of a delay. As more of this is designed and positioned for them, they can navigate through the whole experience on their own. So essentially, being self-sufficient, reducing support calls, sales rep effectiveness, which essentially means is they can sort of get past the initial questions of what the product is about, where do I find it, what are the specifications, how does it compare, how does a product A compare to product B, and some of these questions the customer or the buyer can see on their own, and then they can leverage sales rep for much more detailed and complex scenarios around maybe pricing structures or maybe bundling scenarios or additional offers based on their account or their partnership. So that's where the sales rep could help them answer more detailed questions, and overall it just accelerates the whole experience. And all in all, then the call center volume and time gets more streamlined and efficient, meaning number of calls that come in reduces, and the whole browsing, buying, and education cycle is much faster. With that said, the final piece of this is as we take as we inform the buyers with what they're looking for, as we provide them more information and relevant information depending on where they're navigating and what type of information they're looking for, all of this collectively helps build up customer satisfaction. So as the customer experience starts to improve, it's not just about the first time engagement, it's multiple different instances or even referrals. So you get to retain the customer. One customer might make references to multiple others of their contacts that they've had a good experience collaborating and communicating with an organization or with your organization. And in that particular case, it essentially becomes a little bit of a ripple effect that their good experience translated to multiple others to come. And one of the ways to capture that also is one is word of mouth, where they can refer to their contacts, but at the same time, if there are options provided on the site, on the e-commerce store about ratings and reviews on how the certain customers' experience was, then additional buyers, additional customers browsing through the site or landing on the site, once they see that information, it just builds trust and it just builds confidence between all the future relationships to say all these success stories are sort of proving that all the information and the experience was great, streamlined, relevant, and helped them get to the next stage and get them to finding a product they need and going to the purchase cycle. With that, I'll pass it to Mike to set the stage for this one, and we'll speak to it in the next one as well as we expand more on how all of this can be achieved and where some of the tactics can be used, whereas an approach can be used to get the e-commerce stores enabled.
Thanks, Ritesh. So what does it mean? How do we do it? When you look at going across a sort of crawl, walk, run, fly in 4 sort of steps, it really starts by understanding your customer. A lot of people confess that they need a deeper understanding of the voice of the customer, and really getting to a sense of what their pain points are, what friction they create in any kind of engagement that they have with the customer today, and gaps that you have in terms of functional and foundational capabilities from a digital perspective, and what kind of content you need to support that customer who is experiencing friction with you today. So it really does start with understanding your customer and your ability to implement things that are less friction filled and more delighting for a customer to engage with. And it culminates really in that initial phase by establishing a strategy, a content strategy that will evolve over time, setting sort of a North Star that will guide you based on that kind of primary input and voice of the customer insight to really establish where you need to head and being honest with yourself as to where you are today. From that, you really look at the critical first step is getting started. It can be very overwhelming when you look at all the things that people call out as creating friction or making it a difficult buying experience, or not being able to get the information they want to really feel confident in making a purchasing decision. And that can be very overwhelming and difficult to overcome. But it really does start with a single step, taking the small pieces that you can address today and really getting started, getting over the initial inertia and moving towards something that is towards that greater strategy, but in a way that addresses some immediate quick wins to start the process underway. Considering enriching the content and grabbing some simple systems that would help in that endeavor are a good way to get started too. Sometimes we're implementing PIMs or DAMs for product information and asset management are good ways to at least start collaborating with the rest of the business and consolidating information so that you can present more meaningful data to a customer. And that's often what people are seeking most immediately. Longer term, when you move into more of a run state, it's taking those initial steps and getting feedback. It's creating that kind of analytic loop where you look at what's been effective and establish a process to go and gain further insight after the initial steps you've taken. Automating things that make sense along the way, and investing in systems that are going to take you to that end kind of vision that you put in place before, that are probably larger investments, but definitely have data to back it up, and you can see the value, whereas you may not have even recognized the value in some of the activities prior to actually taking some steps and getting real world feedback and sort of taking an analytic approach to what the next steps should be. And ultimately you get to a point where it becomes a continual feedback loop that's constantly refining that vision and establishing sort of greater, more holistic views of that customer, and creating more compelling cases to complex scenarios, and taking on the bigger, more challenging things that in some cases challenge the business to operate and behave differently, not just implement a piece of technology or provide more data, but actually thinking now about how to service and serve those customers in the most compelling way that are going to force the business to look internally within itself and say, we have to behave differently, we have to function differently to actually adopt and be a digitally first mindset when we deal with our customers. And that's ultimately, you never really leave stage 4, but at stage 4, you become sort of the disruptive force that's constantly innovating, constantly reevaluating how successful you are as a business in helping people at that consideration phase believe in you, believe that you're there to help them, and understand that you're a source of truth and a source of information, so that when they have a question or unsure or need to consider something, that you're the one-stop shop to log into and evaluate that. And that becomes that loyalty and trust that Ritesh mentioned earlier, where it really is you become the top of mind and in a loyal customer base, where you're the first thing that they consider when they are in that consideration phase.
Yeah, and I'll mention one quick thing here is in the crawl, walk, run, fly approach. This is essentially where a business can cross over from building the strategy to creating a roadmap and overlapping that strategy with technology. So these are the points that are highlighted here, is to say, let's build a plan in a sequential or in a crawl, walk, run format. And then that plan does get executed and on how you enable the strategy. And it helps as the technology decisions get made, from either it's an enterprise architecture to selecting a platform to selecting integrations between systems and the methods around it. Those decisions will get made and do help support this strategy moving forward. So all in all, as the business approach then starts to get enabled with the help of technology.
Thanks, Ritesh. So with all that being said, how do you actually measure this? What are the KPIs? What are the things to watch for as you go down this road? It's something that evolves over time. Like we said, it's not a big bang, but there are a few interesting metrics that are top of mind when you go down this road to measure the effectiveness of what you're trying to achieve, and be able to pivot when you aren't seeing the KPIs perform the way you expected. Page views and video views. When you put out that additional content, are people actually looking at it as relevant? Are they considering it? Are they viewing it? How long do they stay on a product page? That's pretty indicative of how compelling the information is there, or how much the rich content that's on that page is relevant to them. Are they quickly skimming it and dismissing it, or are they actually engaging in that because it's enlightening and providing them more assurance during the consideration? Interaction with the page content. A lot of the analytics platforms will tell you, heat maps or click streams through your site, so you can see where they actually engage and how long they engage with each particular piece of the page. And if there are pieces of the page that aren't relevant or aren't really engaging, replace them with something else that is potentially. Emails and newsletter signups. The greatest thing is the flyer in the mail. How much return on that? Is the content engaging and interesting enough that they're willing to give some privacy away, or give some insight away, or give a contact that you can follow up with? Because that is really the point in consideration where someone's willing to engage with in a dialogue with you. Of course, adding the cart is the most effective. You've got them to the point where they're willing to at least create a cart, maybe not convert quite yet, but they've at least got enough interest to put it in something, in a container where they can, go browse it later and potentially convert it to an order. And a close second to that is obviously the abandoned carts. When they create that short list or that wish list kind of effect of things they want to consider later, do they convert, or is there not enough information? So they showed some interest, but you failed to take them that last mile where they're willing to make a purchase. And why is that? So those are incredible macro kind of trends that you can monitor on your site and tailor once you get started to be as effective as you can be in that consideration phase. With that, I think we'll pass it back to Karie for closing comments.
Thanks, Mike. So one of the things we want you to think about is that as we think about content and consideration, that it can be overwhelming, right? Because everybody has different ideas on what content is really relevant and matters. And, one of the things we want to point out is that Proficient does this for our clients all the time. Our goal is to help make our clients successful, drive the revenue results they're looking for, help reduce their cost to serve, whatever it is that their goals and objectives are. So we're here to help, right? Let us help on your digital transformation journey, your commerce transformation journey. We are an agency that does that. And as we think about this, some of the things that we really think about are, what content is relevant? How many man hours is it going to take you to get through that? So we have a lot of tools that we've developed over the years that really help guide companies on this focus. We've done content audits. We've done a lot of different things. So just keep in mind as you're thinking about your digital commerce transformation, you're thinking about your organization and your opportunities, keep in mind that Proficient is here to help. And we have a lot of experience and knowledge, especially in that B2B space, which is really, really difficult. So with that, we want to thank everybody for attending, and we look forward to seeing you in our next session, which will be focused on purchase and fulfillment. So we've got them into the consideration. We've got people engaged. How do we get them or the people that they work with in the B2B buying journey to take that next step and purchase from you so you have the opportunity to do the fulfillment? So we look forward to seeing you at the next session. Thank you.